thing that's most on my mind at the moment is kind of like, it's kind of like, what even is leadership in a collaborative context? Um, so I think I fail at this, and it's kind of like, it's like a tightrope, and I fall off both directions. So one way is this abdication of responsibility. This like, oh, there's no such thing as leadership. Everyone's equal. We're all gonna play nice, and everyone's gonna have a um, and not actually acknowledge that I've got a unique role to play as someone who's like bringing a creative spark, that's like initiating something, that has a creative vision, that has a has an ability to see beyond the horizon, or at least imagine, not literally see, but kind of imagine something across the horizon that not everyone can do that all the time. Sometimes it's like sometimes I get in that mode and I can feel a place to go that, again, like I said about the collective intelligence, it's not my vision. It's that I can kind of see something that we all have in common. Like, hey, I've talked to 50 people and I feel like you're all kind of saying this in different language. And if I frame it this way, do you see yourself there? And people are like, yeah, that's it. That was the whole experience with writing the micro solidarity proposal in the first place, was that I'm like, hey, me and Nati are doing this thing. And then all these people from around the internet were like, we're also doing that thing. Thanks for writing it down. So that's a unique kind of contribution to a group. And there's been times where I've been really resistant to claiming a role there. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to look totalitarian. I didn't want to seem like an authoritarian. I wanted to not dominate people and say like, oh, we have to do things my way. So I'd avoid any kind of ownership or any kind of like, oh, I'm not special. But then I flip on the other way. The other side of the tightrope is like, I've got a very clear vision. If only everyone just did it exactly my way. If you've got questions, you should come to me. I'm the chosen one. Like it's both of those ways of getting in balance really suck, and really like, I think, kind of strangle the life out of a collective endeavor. There's some kind of happy medium between those two, but it's not obvious to me how to find that balance sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like this ties into what we were talking about at the beginning about like, starting to grasp onto certainty, or like knowing the way. And like as you were talking, like the person that was popping up in my mind was Steve Jobs, like this immense visionary. And then also, people, a lot of people would say he was like an asshole, or he could get into these kind of states where he's like, I know what's right, and he wouldn't listen to other people. And it's interesting. It almost feels like you can't help but have that. If you have that capacity, this kind of visionary ability, or this ability to channel like the whole, or to draw these different insights and bring them together and see, what the pathway is forward. And I don't think it would be fair to say that everybody has that ability. You see like people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. It's like they see something, something before other people are able to see, and that's why they're able to capitalize on these things and do these things that other people aren't capable of doing. But in that talent, in that that visionary kind of ability, you could become totalitarian.
The best answer I've come up with so far, like there's a line, if you read the Micro Solidarity website, there's a line about like framing leadership as hospitality. So you mentioned dinner parties, like when you invite people to a dinner party, it's very clear that you're the host. Like you decide who comes, you decide what the music is in the background, you decide what we're eating. And no one's faking it. Everyone knows that's what's going on. But the way to be a good host is to really like elevate and serve the needs of the guests. It's like give them a good time. It's not a domineering move. It's not an authoritarian move. You're not like, you have some distinct power as the host, but you're not like pushing people around and getting them to do stuff they don't want to do. That's not relevant to a good dinner party, right? Like a dinner party is all about enabling or creating the context where all this like lots of fun's happening, and you don't set the tone of what the conversation is going to be. You don't, it's there's a lot of freedom happening, but it's still up to you to hold a certain boundary. And if someone's like, hey, dude, I've been thinking that, can I bring my friend over to this dinner? It's your call whether they can or not, and they know that. And we've got this kind of like shared culture around hospitality that's understood. My aspiration is to be able to take that same attitude into leading organizations and leading projects and movements, to be able to say, like, there are some domains where, like, I'm going to be the host or the co-host. For me, preferably, most of the time I prefer, like I said, don't host alone, like have a second person to bounce with. But to have this way of like having a position which is so uncontested and doesn't bring up all of my like psychological baggage about like, I don't want to, because the other thing about dinner parties, if it's always you hosting, it's not very fun. Like at a certain point you get exhausted. It's like, to me, ideally we take turns hosting, and it's like, yeah, I've been to your house a few times now, why don't you come over and I'm going to cook for you.
Yeah, as you were speaking, like what I was imagining is when circling is facilitated in a very skillful way, that's what it's like. It's like, yes, it's obvious that this person is the facilitator. Maybe they're setting the context. Maybe they're intervening in certain instances where things get kind of challenging. But when it's done skillfully, it's almost like they fall back, and it's just like they become a part of this collective, and things are just, this energy is kind of just moving, and they're maybe just watching for what are the threads, what is the we space, and they're kind of following that. But there isn't the sense of like trying to take it somewhere. It's more of just channeling the flow and just seeing where it goes.